In the last few days, Beckett have come out with some interesting comments on social media that pretty much indicates that they might not be done yet when it comes to being a pillar within the sports card industry. They've only made 2 announcements in the last few days, but I think given how little we have heard from them in the last few years, these 2 announcements are almost seem like a landslide in terms of information we're getting from them. And I think it's a really good thing to try and talk to today, because it might mean, like I said, they're not done, and that we have some much needed competition maintaining and remaining and coming back into our industry. It's a very important thing, irrespective of all the issues that Beckett has. I'm going to share my thoughts on all those things today, so just bear with me as we do in fact talk to it. Now, this first piqued my interest in a video from 3 days ago. This is from their new director out at BGS, basically Luke Miller, announcing himself and talking about the fact that there's a lot of changes to come. They're sort of going to come out with information. It's their 25th anniversary this year, and to sort of stay tuned with what is to come. And the first thing I noticed was, okay, well, this is another video from somebody new out at Beckett. And what he did also announce was that there's these things that they want to prioritize and focus in on. And this in itself didn't really fill me with a whole lot of confidence, because we've seen a lot of talk from Beckett over the years with new CEOs coming in and then leaving and all that sort of stuff. So I sort of took this with a grain of salt, but there's been a few other announcements since that I think pretty cool. And by that, I mean that Beckett's maybe not dead. And nobody really wants to see Beckett dead, because we need competition, even though I've been quite critical of them. But regardless, this guy came out and sort of gave that announcement saying, this is what we're here to try and do. You're going to hear more from us in the coming days. Now, one of the things I mentioned over here, you can sort of see in my comment, is that there are a lot of things that they should be fixing, including what they just listed on that screen. But they've still got a significant issue when it comes to vintage soccer. There's a lot of fakes in their slabs, and they've done sweet F4 when it comes to try and actively remove them. They're really hard to get in communication with. They're really hard to get action when they've made mistakes. It's just a really messy situation. And, I think another thing that should be top of their list is implementing a grading guarantee. I'll get more to that in a sec. The reason why I decided to talk about Beckett today is because they just dropped another video in the last 24 hours talking about the fact that their grading scale is not going to change. And whilst those 2 videos together don't really seem like much, given that we've heard, hardly anything from Beckett in recent years, this is like a huge influx of information. What they're basically talking to in this video is the fact that the grading scale is going to, stay the same. They're going to keep the same subgrades, including the current label structure, basically reaffirming that those things make Beckett Beckett, right? They're not going to try and change, like we saw them try and do at the National 2 years ago, I believe it was, where they sort of tried to change their grading scale. They released information early. They got grilled pretty hard by the public, and then they backtracked. Clearly, a lot of issues going on from management out of BGS, where people were trying to actively change how they were operating as a business, moving away from certain things, or sort of trying to appease and appeal to certain demographics, perhaps, or maybe they were looking for a buyout. Just a really weird situation from Beckett, where they were doing all these things, announcements, backtracking, etc. So it's sort of good to see them, come out and say, you know what, we're sticking to this sort of stuff. And I think that is, really, really good in my opinion. And these things combined, I think, are a good sign for Beckett, because like I said, we've become accustomed to them dropping the ball. We've become accustomed to them not talking about things. So the fact that they've gone out of their way and basically done this, I think, is a good look. And I think there's a lot more to come. Like, yes, it's just 2 announcements in a few days, but you need to remember that, that's probably more announcements than they've done in the last 12 months, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think we need more competition in this space. So we need a strong Beckett, irrespective of what your thoughts are about them, and irrespective of all, the issues I've talked to countless times on this channel, irrespective of them not having, a grading guarantee. Competition breeds excellence and brings excellence to an industry. It brings competition. It brings value to us as consumers. So the fact that, been non-existent meant PSA's gotten to the point where they're grading that many cards. They're grading over 1 million cards a month. The value is all with them. Basically, every other slab is dead in the water compared to a PSA 10. It's just a really funny, situation for the grading industry. You've also now had them acquire, SGC, so they've got even more of a stranglehold, and it means we're probably not going to get as much competition as what we would have had if we still had 4 independent graders. It's also really good that, Beckett, or it will also be really good, I should say, with Beckett becoming a bit more relevant, because it's going to put pressure on CGC. I think this stuff just breeds more things for us as customers, and we should be, somewhat excited. Could this still be fluff from Beckett? Could this be more of the same that we've seen from the last 2 years, where they sort of sprinkle in some information and then they sort of dip again? Sure, but I just feel like something is different this time, and I hope they continue to make improvements, because they have a really big opportunity to actually win back some ground that they've lost to PSA. They're a really prestigious brand within this industry. You can hate on them all you want. I think all these companies have a lot to improve on, but they've got the best opportunity out of anyone to actually become the number one grading company again, just like they were essentially before the pandemic. And they could do it really easily because they've got that name brand. They've sort of got the preference from certain cards going into their slabs. BGS 9.5 sometimes do sell for premiums for certain cards over a PSA 10. They've got the whole black label thing. They're sort of like a sleeping giant. And I think that's what people have talked to them for over the last couple of years, irrespective of all their issues. I've remained pretty constant that, PSA and them are equally as bad as each other. You just see a lot more issues with Beckett because people like to highlight them and they don't have a grading guarantee. But in my mind, all grading companies are the same. I just think, Beckett has that, love that people are too afraid to talk about in recent months because the preference is for PSA. But the general thought process is if Beckett can fix a few things, like the grading guarantee, like stopping with these fake bullshit cards that keep getting graded and all that kind of stuff, they could win back love really quickly. And I think it goes back to an interesting thing I've talked to many times on this channel. People are really fucking fickle. And what people basically do is they flock to PSA 10s like no tomorrow because they think that's where the value is and that's where the value will always remain. But BGS fix a few things and all of a sudden they align to a Fanatics as an example, or they get bought out by a Fanatics, and then, you know what? Overnight, bang, Beckett's now number one because they can flex that arm through Fanatics. Or if they become partnered with Fanatics, Fanatics can, then give them special privilege and permission and benefits for being aligned and using them as a customer, all that kind of stuff when you're breaking on Fanatics Live as an example. There's all these little things that could change overnight, and people think these grading companies are set in stone the way they are. So the fact that we've got Beckett looking like they're a bit more vocal could be pretty eye-opening for this grading industry. And I know I just went on a crazy ramble, as I do often do, but it could change things up quite a lot. It could shake up this industry a lot more than what people probably think right now. And could this just be me talking out of my ass? Sure, but let's just wait and see. Let's see what the next 12 months looks like, because I think it's a sign of some good things to come. Again, I could be left with egg on my face, but I'm keen to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments below. Like I said, people are bloody fickle in this space, and it won't change much for Beckett to win back a lot more customers. And let's not forget they were a preference, especially for thicker cards before the pandemic. It's not gonna, PSA aren't a mountain that can't be demolished is the point I'm trying to make. So let me know your thoughts down below. This was a weird one, me just talking out my ass for most of it, but it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.